Hey guys, welcome to Group 13's Busan301 data visualization. My name is Jay and I'll be guiding you through our visualization, followed by Jacob, who will talk about the design features we have implemented, and finally, Matthew, who will talk about the improvements that could be made about this project. The United Justice goal we are focusing on is Goal 16, which is the peace, justice, and strong institutions, which we further delve into as New Zealand has a fatal flaw with our court system. Our focus is on remand, which is defined as a defendant who is on bail or in custody due to a court trial being adjourned, meaning that their court cases are on break and will resume later. So in this visualization, we will show how being locked up without a sentence is becoming the New Zealand normal within the New Zealand society. The first statistics data we are showing is from corrections.govt.nz, which shows that the volume of New Zealand remanded prisoners are increasing year after year. Our first visualization is a bar chart. This shows our prison population change is only around 89 prisoners. But while remand population change inside prisons increase by 608 prisoners. This means that remand population is increasing drastically within New Zealand prisons. Our second data visualization is a stacked bar chart where we can see the increase in remanded prisoners over the year 2018 to 2019, with the orange bar showing the increase of remanded prisoners in prison during the year 2019. And as you can see, in big city prisons, the remand population increases over the year. One of the reasons that New Zealand prisons have an increase in remand population is due to court cases being adjourned. In our third visualization, we look at the percentages of outcomes of all judge-alone court trials. We see that over 30% of the trials are adjourned or in waiting, meaning that the court will resume on a later date. The underlying potential cause for this is that the courts have a backlog of work to do and cannot keep up with the new cases, and thus keeping these people in remand or remanded into custody. Our fourth visualization shows the trend of active cases over the years, and that shows that they are increasing, meaning that the legal system is being clogged and there are more people going off unsentenced. This is backed up by the courts having increased workload as Auckland courts have had around 1,600 extra cases from 2015 to 2016. We back up this idea with a bar chart showing the trends of courthouse workload increases in the year 2016. With cases having major increases in cities such as Auckland, Manukau, Hot Valley, Gisborne, Waitakere, we can see that New Zealand is going in a downward spiral, which could harm our United Nations goal that we are focusing on.
Hi guys, I'm Jacob and I will be talking through and discussing with you the design decisions that we've made. So the first design feature we see here is the inclusion of the logos of the New Zealand Ministry of Justice and the New Zealand Department of Corrections. So the reason that we've chosen to include these logos is because our story is based on data from and about these organizations. It just really makes it clear to the reader that the data is actually about New Zealand institutes. So a major part of the design is the colors that we have chosen. So we've chosen to use blue, orange, and gray. So we've chosen to use this blue specifically because it is actually the international color of justice and it matches the Ministry of Justice logo, which also matches the UN goal number 16 that we have chosen to present our data on, as you can see here. And we used orange and gray in our visualization because orange and gray are traditionally prison-oriented colors. This just sort of reinforces the fact that the visualization is about prison remand and really just doesn't let the reader forget it. We also use the color to help the reader perceive information in parts of our visualization. So by color coding our visualization and using different contrasting colors for our visualization, it helps the reader to easily differentiate between points in the graphs, just like here and like here. We've also spaced out the bars on our bar graph. This helps to reduce cognitive load because it helps the reader to distinguish between the different points in our visualization. So we've also designed our visualization to read from top to bottom. This helps with storytelling, which is one of the most important parts of a visualization, one of the most important design principles. So by ordering the elements of our visualization in such a way, it just sort of encourages the reader to read the visualization in the order that we intended for them, which allows the reader to intuitively follow the story. This simultaneously helps decrease cognitive load, as if the visualization is presented in a way in which the reader naturally follows the story order, then it is much easier for the reader to read the visualization the way it was intended, which maximizes the effectiveness of the story while also minimizing the cognitive load. We've also employed the Hans-Rosling presentation breakdown to maximize our visualization's impact. So the visualization leads with our punchline of locked up without a sentence, which also helps to attract the reader by setting the tone of our visualization to encourage the reader to demand justice. So the use of the different types of visualizations as well also helps to engage our readers so they don't get bored. So you can see different types of bar graphs and line graphs. We've also chosen to use like little icons and stuff like this little judge icon to help also not bore the reader. Overall, we've sort of used design principles to maximize our storytelling ability while keeping the cognitive load low and also making sure the way our visualization is presented has impact.
Hi, my name's Matt, and I'm going to be going over what we could have actually improved about our visualization. Alrighty. First of all, we're going to go right down here to this trend of active cases graph. Honestly, this graph is a little unnecessary. What we could have done is actually replaced it with essentially just the number percentage increase. So like say 30% increase in active cases, but a 12% decrease in new business. Would have reduced the visual clutter and kind of cleared up this graph a little bit. And it's not like we have a an over we've got a good balance of text to graphs, and I think slanting it a little bit more towards text wouldn't be a problem, especially if it had a nice border on it. All right. Another improvement we could make, we actually got a question about this on Canvas, which is about this visualization here, the courthouse workload increase in 2016. So it's actually quite confusing color-wise because the colors actually reflect the size of the courts, whereas the graph is showing workload increase. So Auckland actually had 962 increase, which is the largest, but it's actually the second largest court after Manukau. The question was basically asking, could we make this clearer? And the answer is yep, we absolutely could have. We probably should have had the color be related to the actual increase and decrease in cases as opposed to the courthouse size. Maybe even shrunk this visualization to show the top 10 and then show the top 10 courts next to it if we wanted to really convey that. Or even if we do quite want to stick with the color increase and decrease, then we probably could have just put a text box here explaining that, hey, look, the color is relative to the size of the court, not the increase and decrease in cases. Alrighty. Some other improvements. We could have included some definitions for things like judge alone trials. We took liberties with the fact that our audience would actually have some knowledge of the New Zealand court system. That may not have been the correct stance to take, but I think is a defendable one. And also things like what remanded prisoners are. You can get it from context, from the locked up without a sentence, that these are people who have been found guilty or pleaded guilty and have been sent to prison, but the actual definition isn't in the visualization. We decided to not include it because of the visual clutter it would take, and it would also just kind of make it a bit wordy, and it's already somewhat wordy, but it might have been better if we had included it. It really just depends on if our assumptions about our audience are correct or not. There are extra data points that could have been added. I think the real first one is if we'd expanded our story to kind of consider what happens for people who are remanded compared to the people in the general prison population? Are they facing worse outcomes long term? Unfortunately, this data doesn't actually exist, or if it does, it's locked away in the Ministry of Justice's data vaults. Um, Otherwise, it would be really interesting to know, because I know that there are theories, for example, about, hey, are people who are remanded in custody who are meeting general population high security prisoners, are they actually walking away with new criminal connections, for example, they maybe wouldn't have gotten if they were just sentenced in the normal security level general population. Another thing that could have been included in our visualization data-wise is ethnicity data. It's quite horrific. The portion of Māori and Pacifica who are on remand, I think it is slightly worse than in the general prison population, which is already pretty terrible. Um, it was cut because it was a sidestep from our story, but I think we could have actually maybe replaced the trend of active cases with the ethnicity data, while still kind of maintaining the story emphasis that this problem is actually getting worse. All right, awesome. Thank you very much for listening to our improvements.